Welcome to DIYEasyCrafts.com. How to make your own Barracuda shaped Warri Caribbean board game. Now Warri, sometimes spelled W-A-R-R-I, sometimes spelled just W-A-R-I, it also goes by the name Mancala. It's played in a variety of different ways, variety of different rules, but it's a very simple game. It also involves quite a bit of strategy. I decided to make a Warri board, but I wanted to carve it in the shape of a fish. In this case, I wanted to carve it in the shape of a barracuda. Started out the process just by sketching out the barracuda with my limited artistic ability and the associated 12 holes. There's 6 holes on each side that have to hold to start 4 game pieces. There's also a larger opening on both ends of the board, and those are to keep the captured pieces. Once I had the design figured out, I then transferred that onto a piece of 1x8 pine. I used a router, and I just have a small 1/4-inch diameter squared off bit, and I'm going to plunge cut this into each one of those holes that I want to scoop out. And then very carefully, just by eye, I'm going to follow those guidelines. This does take a little bit of practice. You may want to try it on a scrap piece of wood first. But basically, I just plunge the router down into the center of the area that I want to router out. And then very carefully, I router to the edge of the line that I drew, indicating the groove or the cutout area. And then I use the same router to router out the inside piece. You want to be very careful that the router doesn't hit the walls that are left in place. If I were going to do this again, one of the things that I would change is, instead of using a square-tipped router bit, I would go and get maybe a 1/4 diameter round bit. And this would create a nice round surface at the very bottom of each one of those walls. It would make those walls a little bit steadier, and it would make the pieces a little bit easier to scoop out while you're playing the game. Basically, I'm just continuing on routering out each one of those openings. The whole process really doesn't take all that long. Once you get the hang of it, each opening, may take 5 or 6 minutes. I routed out all of the openings before I cut out the fish shape. I just thought it would be more stable. I would have less chance of breaking it. And in reality, I just didn't want to put any work into this piece until all of those holes were successfully routed. Now here you see all of the holes, the 6 holes per each side, and then also a collection basin on each end are finished. Now I'm just going to cut out the shape of the fish, in this case a barracuda. Just going to use a jigsaw. Very quick, very easy. You can add as much detail to these things as you'd like. You can also, of course, choose a different type of fish. I was thinking about even making one in a seahorse shape. But I'll leave all of that to your own artistic ability. Once the shape is cut out, and again, this is a very simple process, you're going to want to sand the entire piece. You can just use a disc sander or even hand sandpaper with a block. I rounded out all of the outside diameter edges, smoothed everything over. You can actually use a Dremel grinder if you wanted to sand off the inside of all of those grooves or notches. And then I added some additional detail to the fish with a Dremel grinder, just using a cutoff wheel. This is great for making lines and details. I added a bunch of lines onto each one of the fins with the same tool. Here I'm just doing the tail fin. It just adds a little bit of character. I'm just going to stain this piece. I'm not going to paint it. So these lines and the additional detail that you add really show up in the finished product, through the stain. I just drilled a hole for the eye, 3/4-inch hole halfway through the wood. And right now, the piece is ready to be stained. So after staining, and here's the game pieces that I'm going to use. They're traditionally played with Warri seeds. I didn't have any Warri seeds, but I did have a bunch of small pieces of coral that I picked up while walking the beach. These are all sea tumbled and rather smooth, and they're going to work out really well for these game pieces. I also found some broken spiral seashells. These are just the tip of sea snails that were broken off. I found them tumbling in the surf. And I'm just going to glue these in place with some 5-minute epoxy to give that snarled tooth look of the Barracuda. And actually, before I glued the seashells on for the teeth, I did coat the entire thing with lacquer. Just spray lacquer. I gave it a couple coats just to give it a little bit of a glossy look, and also to add a little bit of durability. And this is the finished product. So you have a seashell tooth Barracuda using coral pieces as the game pieces for a very unique fish-shaped Warri board. Now this game is really easy to play. It does need a little bit of strategy in order to win. I would highly advise looking online for some game rules. If you liked this video, I ask that you please like and subscribe to this YouTube channel, and please check us out on the web at DIYEasyCrafts.com and check out some of our other how-to projects.